Hello everyone! Last weekend my friend Bibiliciouss from Sweden won the European Continental Championship in Silph Arena, so congratulations to you, Bibi! If you are just interested in the battles, then you can skip to whatever timestamp I put here on screen, cause first I will introduce Bibi and the format. So firstly, Silph Arena is the largest network for organized PvP, and they arrange unofficial Continental Championships as well as World Championship with the basic format of choose 6 Pokemon for your team and bring 3 to every battle. In the 2021 European Championship, 104 of the best trainers in Europe battled it out to claim the title of Continental Champion. Bibi, Danne and me represented Sweden in the preliminaries, and me and Danne ended on place 20 and 26 respectively, while Bibiliciouss qualified for the playoffs by finishing in the top 8, and in this video I will showcase 6 of the most interesting battles from Bibi during this playoff run, and if you want to see all of his battles, I will put a link in the description to PvP Steve that showcased all of them. Bibi has been considered the best player in Sweden by many Swedes for about a year, but before this championship Bibi was kind of unknown out in the world since he doesn't play that much. And he was by far the lowest ranked player in the playoffs, but he is much better than his rank suggests, since in Silph you have to play a lot and every month to get a good ranking, so ranking doesn't really reflect strength of a player. Just looking at Bibi's stats, he had the best grit score, which is a good measure of how strong a player is, and the second best win rate out of the 8 competitors in the playoffs, and in factions he was the best performing field specialist in all of Europe at this point. He was my favorite to win the European Championship, and my guess was that Bibi would have faced Leandro in the final, which was the dude that knocked me out of the tournament. And that's enough of introduction, and let's have a look at the battles. To the left you can see Bibi's team, and then to the right is Mephis Flow AMD and Leandro and V Tenacity, which are the opponents, and Mephis Flow AMD is first up in the quarterfinal, and he was the reigning European champion at the time, and he leads with Alolan Grimer, which is great for Unova Stunfisk, and then comes the Scrafty, which is great for Azumarill, so already Bibi is in a great spot. And Bibi decided to go with an ABB line here, with double water in the back, and Bibi told me that he prepared this line even before the tournament to use against Mephis Flow AMD, because his team was very weak to Ludicolo and Azumarill, and the only real counter to them was Alolan Grimer, so he planned to lure out the Alolan Grimer and then sweep with either Ludicolo or Azumarill. But either way, the Alolan Grimer was in the lead, so now he just needs to maintain the switch advantage. He goes for an Ice Beam here. It would be slightly more accurate to go for the Hydro Pump, but he expected to reach another Ice Beam, which he didn't. But it doesn't really matter, because the Alolan Grimer will be locked against Unova Stunfisk later in the game, and this Marshtomp is not going to do anything against the Ludicolo. All of the charge moves are resisted, because no one really runs Sludge on Marshtomp. And in this game, no shields were used, which was kinda funny, but there weren't really any good spots to use the shields. The result would have been the same, so there was no mistake there. And then Bibi went on to win the second game, and Mephis conceded the last game. Moving on to the semifinal against Leandro, and Bibi won the first game, so this is game number 2, and Leandro is in a must-win position. So Bibi leads with a Dragonite, and he uses Dragon Breath. If you compare it to Dragon Tail, then Dragon Tail does deal more damage, theoretically on paper, but practically it's usually just the same amount of damage due to breakpoints, and the Dragon Breath is a 1-turn fast move, so if you miss a move then it doesn't matter as much, just wasting 1 turn instead of 3, and also it is much easier to time your charge moves. So that fairly neutral matchup turned out to almost be a tie, and then we go into another fairly neutral matchup, and Bibi went for 1 Mud Bomb, and then he shields. He's afraid of the Bulldoze that Munchlax may carry, and then he goes for a Discharge, so he puts the Munchlax low, 1 more charge move, and then a bunch of fast moves would have KO'd it, and he tried to catch the next Body Slam or Bulldoze onto Azumarill, but Leandro expected the switch and went into Pelipper instead. So now Bibi is in a very rough position. It's not over by any means, and he managed to shield the Hurricane, which is amazing, because that wastes a lot of energy from that Pelipper. And the Pelipper needs to start to shield, because now it's basically in Ice Beam range. And Leandro has perfect count, using the Hurricane right before Bibi uses his Ice Beam, and then snipes the Azumarill with a Body Slam that he charged up to. So at this point, Bibi need to exit this matchup with 2 discharge ready, so that he can take the shield and defeat the Pelipper. So he undercharged the Mud Bomb, and almost a perfect undercharge. He should have hit just a few more bubbles to exit the matchup with 2 discharge and KO the Pelipper. Moving on to the last game of the semi-final against Leandro, and now Bibi leads with Azumarill into Alolan Grimer, which is terrible, but he goes straight into Unova Stunfisk, which is a good safe swap against Leandro's team, and here it might look weird that Leandro stays in, but if you want to maintain switch advantage, he's actually forced to stay in, because if you just switch immediately, then a double shielded Unova Stunfisk could possibly take switch advantage against any of Leandro's Pokemon. So therefore he sacrificed half of the health on the Alolan Grimer to make sure that he can have switch advantage, but that also comes with the cost of having desynced switch timers. So at this point Leandro is not able to go into his Alolan Grimer that he really wanted to have against this Azumarill. So Bibi charges up 9 bubbles, 99 energy, and then goes for an Ice Beam, forces a shield, and then finally Leandro can go into this matchup. But now Leandro is forced to use another shield because that is the only clean way to deal with this Azumarill. And of course Leandro has he knows exactly how much energy the Azumarill has, so he used his charge move right before the Azumarill reached an Ice Beam, and then this Matchlex has a ton of energy, so Bibi is going to shield once, and then this second one is going to connect and deal more than half of the HP on Dragonite, and then Leandro's last Pokemon is Escavalier. So now Bibi will have to trust in his Stunfisk to finish this, because the Dragonite has no HP left basically, so he's just able to reach another Mud Bomb against the Munchlax and finish this game with 1 HP left. Moving on to the final, where we have V Tenacity, and this is a double elimination bracket, so Bibi will have to defeat V Tenacity 2 times to become the champion, and at this point it's 1-1 in the first final, so both players are in a must-win position. And once again, Bibi is up against an Alolan Grimer in the lead, so the Azumarill needs to get out of there, and V Tenacity plays this exactly the same way as Leandro does. He stays in, throws 1 charge move, forces a shield, and then he switches just to absolutely make sure to maintain switch advantage with his, so that he can have his Alolan Grimer against the Azumarill, because the rest of the lineup is kind of weak to Azumarill. So Bibiliciouss fires off his Dragon Claw right before the Poliwrath reaches his next Ice Punch, but V Tenacity has great awareness that that's not going to KO, so he tanked it, and then at this point V Tenacity has both shield advantage and switch advantage, so he has every chance in the world to win this. But Bibiliciouss still has 2 very strong tanks left. And here V Tenacity makes a slight mistake, going for the return instead of 2 foul plays. 2 foul plays would be enough to KO the Stunfisk, but 1 return is not. So that's a mistake. And then V Tenacity shields this and switches out. So at this point suddenly Bibiliciouss is in the driver's seat. The Ice Beam is almost going to be able to take out this Alolan Grimer, but the Sludge Bomb is not. And here the Sableye does have a bunch of energy, but he empties it on Azumarill, and Bibiliciouss is slightly before the Sableye to the next charge move, and once again, just like against the last game against Leandro, is very close. Moving on to the real final against V Tenacity, and at this point once again Bibiliciouss won the first game, so now V Tenacity is in a must-win position, and they lead with Azumarill versus Poliwrath. And this matchup is, as long as Azumarill does not have Play Rough, it's fairly neutral. It comes down to whether Poliwrath can outspam the Azumarill or if the Azumarill can outbulk the Poliwrath. So 4 dynamic punches is going to be enough to KO Azumarill, and Bibiliciouss will need to connect with 2 Hydro Pumps to take down the Poliwrath. So Bibiliciouss is not going to do anything fancy. He's going to force one shield if V-Tenacity wants the switch advantage, and then he's going to let the Azumarill go down. And V-Tenacity overfarms as much as possible. Of course, he knows exactly how much energy the Azumarill has. And then, since he overfarmed so much, Bibiliciouss is going to send in his Stunfisk to take one of the ice punches, but he still decided to shield it to keep it healthy in case there is a Probopass in the back. And here comes the Sableye. So here Bibiliciouss spams charge moves and hope that there is no Probopass in the back, but it's actually very likely to be a Probopass in the back, since Poliwrath and Sableye are not really that good against the Shadow Dragonite. So here Bibi tried to catch a charge move, but V-Tenacity did not throw it, and then there is Probopass in the back. So at this point there's basically nothing left for Bibi to do, since this Probopass will easily take down the Shadow Dragonite, and with that shield that the Probopass has, it's going to put the Unova Stunfisk into range for a foul play that the Sableye in the back has loaded. But Bibi is going to try to make one last attempt to win the game, and it's actually kind of funny and advanced play, because right here, immediately after the Rock Slide, Bibi goes for the Mud Bomb, and if the Sableye had been switched in and tried to snipe the Stunfisk, then the Mud Bomb could have gone before the foul play and therefore dealt 1 damage through the shield and KO'd the Sableye, but it didn't work out. So now the score is 1-1 into the final game of the finals in the European Continentals finals, and once again we have Sableye versus Stunfisk. So it's a disadvantageous position for the Stunfisk, so after 9 Shadow Claws the Sableye is most likely to throw, since that's when it becomes a return bait. So Bibi caught it on his Azumarill, and this Grimer is coming in to counter the Azumarill, and of course Bibi goes for the Ice Beam, because if he goes for the Hydro Pump, then the Grimer is just going to outpace it and take it down before it can do anything. And then this Grimer is going easily down by 1 Mud Bomb. So now we're suddenly back where we started, with the Stunfisk against Sableye, and once again Bibi starts to shield, because there might be a Probopass in the back. And he goes for Mud Bombs, which is slightly less energy efficient than Discharge, but he kind of expects V-Tenacities to start shielding when the Stunfisk gets shielded, especially if there is a Probopass in the back, then V-Tenacity would kind of be forced to shield right there. But instead he saves both of his shields for Poliwrath, so of course he's going to shield the Dragon Claw, it would hurt a lot, and then V-Tenacity is going to one-shot this Dragonite with an Ice Punch, double super effective, and then almost take out this Stunfisk. So now there's only one way to win, and it's to bait with this Mud Bomb, and V-Tenacity falls for the bait, and V-Tenacity is 1 Mud Shot away from the next charge move, and then they barely have any HP left, and Bibi is just able to take it with pretty much 1 HP once again. So amazing play by Bibi, and totally deserving of the European Continental Champion title. And thanks for watching.